Hey guys, it's Right Hand Man here. I'm going to do a run through for Parade of the Possess, also known as March of the Beast. This fight can be a long one, so I'm going to try and get through this quickly. Um, and I know you guys don't have all the units. I'm going to use this team right here. I'm not really going to use the olive except to make some of the fights faster, but the team is based around my 100% evade Noctis using Kiyomori, the two rings of the Luci, and two quick assaults. You also want to make sure that you have discernment because if he gets paralyzed or something else, he will not be able to evade. I also have a Cecil who is not really equipped with much. He's mostly there just to buff. And then a level 100 Yushtolda. Sorry. Uh, and she's going to be our main healer, but she also has Carbuncle to give you some of the elemental resist buffs that you need. It's probably a good idea if you have Minfilia, to bring her instead of what I'm bringing with the Olive because she can buff your attack. And then, of course, I have Cloud of Darkness here. He's got quite a few TMRs, but that's yet again just to make this go through a little quicker. So let's go ahead and go into the trial, and you guys can see how the fight works. It is a long fight, and it's very hard to do the clear without an ally being KO'd because some of the attacks hit you quite hard. But it is very easy to do the party of 5 or less since you can use items. I'm going to use No Friend so that way you guys can see how easy it is to use just 5 people. For the first fight here with Killer Mantis and Belmodar, you want to use Fire Flask because they are both vulnerable to quite a few status effects, mainly Paralyze. And then after you do that, you can buff or you can just honestly attack with everybody. Once they're both paralyzed, it really is a fairly easy fight, and you don't want to just use mana that you don't need to. And so if they become unparalyzed or something else, you can just use another Fire Flask. You can also make this faster by using abilities on Noctis like Warp Break. Just make sure that you use Point Warp at the end of battles. So here against the Ochu and the Micro Ochus, you just want to use Fire Flask again. They're all weak to fire, so as you can see, it does quite a bit of damage, but they're also still weak to paralyze. So this enables us to just do that. To paralyze everything, and we don't need to worry about it. You can auto through this one as well, but I'm just going to hit repeat because I don't mind using the mana on Noctis. But yet again, you want to make sure that you point warp at the end of this, which he died to the Olive, so it's not a big deal. For this fight against Roper and the Jellies, the only status that they can be hit by other than, breaks, which I think still counts as a status, is stop. So you want to use Blizzard Flask. It makes this fight much easier if they get stopped, which unfortunately they did not. In this certain case, I would go ahead and use a break and break their defense. Use a full breaker. Warrior of Light works fine if you're bringing him instead of Cecil. Other than that, they don't do that much damage, so you can pretty much heal through it. And I would just, reuse your Blizzard Flask until they get stopped, so that way you don't have to worry about any of the effects they do. But there is no, like I said, there's no real danger in this fight. The first few up until the 7th one are all fairly easy. So I'm just going to keep on basically autoing these down. And then here, now that he's low, I'm going to make sure that I go ahead and use Point Warp to restore Noctis's mana. That's very important. It helps you not use items, basically, but it doesn't, other than that, it doesn't matter. If you're willing to spend the items, then that's your choice. So this fight, with Flameblade and Hell's Rider. Hell's Rider can be stopped, so you can... Sorry about that, guys. Hell's Rider can be stopped, so you can use Blizzard Flask, but Flameblade is the one you need to worry about. At 50%, he will cast a buff on himself, and he increases his magic and attack. And in addition to that, he can cast Fire, which can do quite a bit of damage to your party. So, when you do this, you can either try and one turn kill him, or just bring him right to that 50% brink, and then kill him from there. If you can't do that, you can use a Dispel, but you also need to worry about the 25%, the 25% health mark on him, because at that point, he will one turn KO your character, and if you are actually trying to do the... Let's hope Holy kills him. If you're actually trying to do the no deaths reward, then I would suggest being very careful with this. So as you can see, I brought him down below 25%, but I couldn't kill him, so he killed Cecil. And like I said, you just need to... That's something to keep in mind. And I said this in the guild guide, and I'm going to remake it, and I'll probably say it again. When you're doing all these trials, especially these last two, you don't really need to overheal. As long as you know that your character is not going to die, it's not really worth it to do any overhealing. You really just don't need to. After you do that, you can basically just work down Hell's Rider. The only thing he does is use poison, and he has physical attacks, but as you can see, they don't really do too much. And like I said, you really just don't need to overheal. It'll help you a lot with Gilgamesh and not using items to restore mana, which can be fairly important. So that's a good thing. Alright, now that you're past this fourth battle here, and we're on to the fifth, the Arch-Eucatastrophe, which I'm just going to call Arch because his name's very hard to pronounce for me. All the legs here are vulnerable to breaks. So if you have a Ling, you can AoE break all of them and pretty much kill them very quickly. But here, I would just suggest using Thunder Flask. Everything is weak to Thunder, which I know it didn't pop up, but I promise you it is. And the main body, as you can see, is immune to breaks. So it does take a little bit of time to kill, and I would just suggest working your way through them. Now, after you use Thunder Flask, or what you can start with is Fire Flask, because the legs can be affected by statuses, mainly Paralyze, which I'll go ahead and show you. And that can be a good thing to do, because it'll just save you a little bit of damage done to your party. So now that we've killed the legs, they don't have that much health, so it shouldn't be that hard to get through. The main body obviously can be blinded, but he does cast Blizzara, so you will have to watch out for that when it happens. So yeah, I didn't bring any buffers other than Cecil, or I probably would do quite a bit more damage. As you can see, even though I have the limit burst on Noctis, I'm not using it right away. There's a point later on in the fight, in the fights, I suppose, where it can be quite beneficial to have that limit break already ready. Mainly if you're having trouble with the Wandering One, but either way, it'll definitely help you to save it, especially if you don't absolutely need it for the fights beforehand. So here's that Blizzara cast. As you can see, it's about 1,000 damage across the board. You can cast Bar Blizzara if you have Carbuncle. It'll reduce some damage. I don't think it's absolutely needed here. But that, like I said, the benefit of this guide using my Noctis is that you can take the fights really slow. You don't have to worry about too much. You just need to focus on what you're doing. So for the 6th, 7th battle here, anyway, against Terror Knight, all you need to do is use a Phoenix down or cast full raise or raise if you have your Sholta or Refia. I prefer to use a Phoenix down so that way I can save mana. It generally ends up helping. So on this fight against Chimera, Chimera is immune to fire, ice, and lightning attacks. You basically just have to attack him down. But the main part of this fight, and I'm going to kill Antlion first so that way you guys can see this. On the enemy's turn 4, Chimera will cast Aqua Breath. I know Exvius Wiki says that it is after 50% health, but if you're a little slower killing it, it will always cast it on his turn 4. So this is my first turn. And I'm going to actually go ahead and use the limit break here just because it'll give me the buff to kill Antlion a little bit quicker. Antlion can be confused and slept, so keep that in mind. You can use Fire Flask here, it just won't affect Chimera. So that was his first turn, and now this is on our second turn right here. So keep that in mind as a heads up. I'm going to reduce the defense here. I could be using Barrage. It would probably be better. Barrage just takes forever to go through, but if you guys have any other questions, you can message me through Reddit, or you can always get in touch with me on my streams, which are linked in the comments, or on Twitter. I'm usually fairly quick at responding, so I hope that helps you guys out. This is my third turn here, and so the next turn will be the enemy's third turn. So we haven't quite gotten through to the point where we have to worry about Aqua Breath. Like I said, I wanted to make sure you guys saw this. So after this turn, this is my 4th turn, and Chimera's 4th turn will be next turn. I would definitely suggest, if you don't have Bar Watera, which I did not cash off of Sholta, I probably could have. If you have a Cloud of Darkness, I think that Omni Veil will boost your water resistance enough to where it won't it shouldn't kill your team. And you just want to kind of play it safe. So since he's immune to lightning damage and Olive is equipped with Sparky, I'm going to have to do the light damage attack to do anything with her. So here comes the turn with Aqua Breath, and it does, like I said, do quite a bit of damage. Without the resistance buff up, it can do about 2k damage by itself, in addition to whatever other casts he does. So yeah, now let's just get through this. If you have like Chizirus and Furion, it is obviously much better to chain as much as you can. You'll do much more damage. I'm just kind of doing this with the random team. I know it takes longer, but I figured I'd kind of give you guys a guide where you don't have the optimal setup nowadays, which is definitely chaining. That's what you want to stick to when you can. But we should be able to get through this fairly quickly. One more turn after this one, should be able to get it. Since this is such a long fight, if I don't kill Chimera, I want to make sure to point warp with my Noctis at the end of this fight, which I'm fairly certain Chimera dies here. So as you can see, I'm somewhat low. Point warp costs 50 mana. Just make sure you don't go below that, or you will have to use an item. Noctis does not have auto refresh as far as I know. So on this fight, you have to be careful. Wyvern does a AoE wind-based physical attack. It helps to buff your defense if you have a buffer, which it did not bring. Other than that, he is a 100% physical attacker. You can use fish with Noctis to stop him from killing your team, and that does help a lot, but I'm not going to do that. I'll point warp first and then use Fire Flask, because all of these people are affected by, or at least the Wandering One is affected by statuses, and so that can help stop him from casting. Wandering One is considered a mage, and he casts fire and Fira, and that can definitely hurt your team. So you just want to make sure that you go ahead and kill Wandering One first while you're fishing with my Noctis. It'll help keep your team alive and make this fight much easier. Alright. Now, I didn't end up using Fire Flask, but like I said, you can use that as long as you have full mana at the start of the fight. It will definitely make it a bit easier. This is where you're really going to start, you know, just casting your big spells. Give yourself room to breathe as long as you have the mana. Going into the next fight, you want to make sure you're as fully healed as possible. Europa has a lot of unmitigable damage, unavoidable damage, I should say. Every 3 turns, Europa will cast Wave Cannon, which is a lot of damage to one unit. To go back to this fight, though, that AoE he just did was his wind AoE physical attack, and as you can see, it did quite a bit of damage to my characters. So you just want to keep that in mind. So we'll go ahead and cast Kuraja. That should be able to keep us up enough. Going into the next fight, if you can, I would save as many limit bursts as you can. It's easier to do the fights if you can kill the Seekers that are with Europa almost immediately. You really just don't want to keep them up. They do this attack that is called Beam. It is a unavoidable attack. So it's not, it's supposedly a hybrid attack, but you can't evade it. So fishing with Noctis does not work. The biggest help for Europa fight is to use Bar Thundara or another character like Minfilia, who can buff your Thunder resist, your Lightning resist. It definitely helps a lot to have. It'll make the fight go much, much smoother, and it'll kind of reduce the risk that you take when going into these fights. I'm going to go ahead and just auto with everybody else. I know I'm almost done, and I want to get through this too, but I'd rather have the point warp there and just go ahead and use this now. Like I said, Bar Thundara is incredibly important. Any amount of lightning resist you can give your characters will help immensely in this fight. A lot of it, other than the physical attacks, is all based around lightning, like Plasma. Plasma is an AoE lightning attack that can wipe your team, so you just want to be very careful. If you have Yasholta, you can dual cast Bar Thundara and heal your team if you need to. And as you'll see, it does quite a bit. Now on this fight, the Seekers can be paralyzed. They have a 50% chance not to be, but they can also be confused as well as Europa. So it is beneficial to use Fire Flask first and see if you can get two of them to be paralyzed, the Seekers. After doing that, you really just want to go ahead and kill, I see Seekers, but the Searchers. After doing that, you just want to start killing them. They are weak to lightning, as you can see. It is a big help on this fight. So if you have an Olive, breaking their lightning resistance and using a mage to just cast Thundagas will clear this fairly quickly. You don't have to have that tanky of a team for this round, as long as you use your resists and buffs properly. It is not like Gilgamesh where X-Slash is going to do 4k every turn when he starts casting it twice. You can kind of avoid a lot of that and then, really work down your characters. So this is beneficial to do this way. And if you ever get to the point you have a tank and you don't want everything to come onto your other characters and you're somewhat close, you can start provoking with your tank. Even though he's going to take a lot of damage, it is at least damage going on to someone who is not an attacker, and it can kind of keep your team alive over the course of this. So since Cloud of Darkness is kind of worthless, I'm going to go ahead and give Olive back her mana, so that way I can clear this. I'm just going to go ahead and reduce the defense and lightning resistance of Europa, so that way next turn Olive will do quite a bit of damage to him. And the Searcher should almost be dead. So there was Wave Cannon onto Olive, which killed her. This is a situation that you can find yourself where you can't kill them fast enough. Make sure that you have that Thunder resistance up, which I let drop. Also, if you haven't killed the Searchers by the time the status effects wear off, use Fire Flask again on your Noctis. And like I said, it'll help a lot. I'll go ahead and revive. Crush Wave happens only once every 3 turns, so you don't need to worry about it too much. You can defend on those turns to save whatever character is getting attacked, but it is not absolutely necessary. Now the fight becomes much easier after you have killed the Searchers, just because he's only going to do plasma, which keeps on killing my guy that I need to clear this quicker. It's making the video longer, guys. So after you've done that, just focus down. You can taunt if you need to with Noctis. He is going to take quite a bit of damage because a lot of the attacks can't be evaded. Now that I've had my team survive, so I can buff them, we definitely want to cast Barth and Dara again. Make sure you don't do what I did and let it come off and lapse. It is a huge benefit to have it. As you guys can see, my Olive, even with 4k HP, was dying in one turn. So, just be aware of that. If you have any regular Coral Swords, a lot of the time Coral Swords, if you can make it through the ones that are immune to lightning, like Chimera, Coral Swords will help you get through the final fight much easier. My Noctis can solo up until Europa, but will unfortunately die to him. You just have to play it extremely safe by killing the Wandering One, and then it's kind of RNG based, where you full heal your highest health person, usually your tank, and hope they survive some of the physical attacks. And then you can start fishing with Noctis while that one character uses items or uses spells to revive the rest of your team, since Fish will draw all those attacks onto Noctis. So that is the clear for this trial, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe or follow me on Twitter or join me on Twitch. I'll see you guys later.